Hello and welcome to Turning Looks Beauty News Edition. It's our first episode where we're taking the beauty news segment from the podcast episode and putting it into a different episode itself. First up on our beauty news for April, we have Swedish skincare brand Mantle has launched an age restriction on its website to address the growing use of inappropriate anti-aging products by children and teens. I think this is both very much needed, but wild the fact that it is needed. Now, because of things like TikTok and social media, young children and teenagers are using treatments and skincare products that they do not need to be using on their skin. Retinoids, retinols, all these serums and skincare ingredients and actives that are just messing up their skin because they're too young to be using it. But that's the audience of a lot of these people on these social media platforms. And the content creators that are pushing out a lot of the content using these products, or the skincare content creators, are not, I guess, maybe realizing that their audiences are a lot younger than they assume, or they just don't care because, hey, as long as someone's buying and clicking through my links, I'm making money. Now, the CEO of Mantua said, the number of young people searching and buying anti-aging products has greatly increased, and so it feels very important to me to take a stand since watching this phenomenon grow, which is great to see that like this brand is being like, no, our products are not for children and teens. You are not gonna be using them. But the fact that like a companies have to put age restrictions on their products just says how bad this has gotten. I know friends who work in retail, and again, these are retail places like Selfridges, like Space and K, places where they're selling expensive skincare that children and teenagers, one, aren't buying themselves, their parents are buying for them, but they have no business buying from there anyway. Kids should be going to Boots and Superdrugs and getting the simple like Nivea stuff, maybe some stuff on for spot treatment and acne, but drugstore kind of level stuff. No matter really what your budget is, just because they don't need those harsh chemicals and those nuanced formulas on in their skincare products because they're kids and they're still growing. But it's wild. Do we think that this is going to be something that happens more though? Do we think more brands are going to start putting age restrictions on their products so that young kids aren't using them? I hope so, because to see kids messing up their skin at a young age, we always get told by like the elder millennials and the generation just a little bit above them, who say about plucking their eyebrows super thin and now they regret it. I feel like it's going to be like Gen Z, Gen Alpha are going to be the generation that are going to be telling Generation B, hun, don't do it. My skin's effed up now because of all the stuff I used when I was younger. That could be a thing. Next news segment. Superdrug has introduced a price freeze across 5,000 of its makeup products as part of its ongoing commitment to support shoppers through the rising cost of living. Brands such as Rimmel, Elf, Maybelline, and Studio London, which is Superdrug's own brand, will now remain the same price until summer 2024, which isn't too far away, but it's nice to see that a brand and a company is taking a stand, knowing that the cost of living is incredibly difficult for many of us. Products of everything are going up for lots of different reasons. And as much as cosmetics aren't a necessity for a lot of people and for most people, it is just makeup at the end of the day. It's nice to know that those things that can make people feel a little bit better about themselves, a little treat here and there, is going to be frozen. So it's not going to be going up drastically as much as, say, like our food or our energy bills are. Hey. Third news story, reportedly and allegedly, so don't sue me, Selena. Selena Gomez is weighing in the sale of her viral cosmetics brand, Rare Beauty. It was valued at 1.58 billion, which is huge. But according to anonymous sources, which means anyone, bankers have met with potential suitors to purchase the company. There's been no outcome as of yet, but Selena still wants to stay very heavily involved in the brand if she does sell it on. Now, is this a good move? Personally, I think so. The market is getting more and more saturated, especially by influencer and celebrity brands. And whilst the brand Rare Beauty is at its peak, it'd be a great time to sell it while it's at its peak, while people are really, really super into it, before it starts going like Kylie Cosmetics or Kim Kardashian's makeup brands, where you have to do loads of rebranding, where you're trying to scratch at anything to get people to buy from you, while people are still really enjoying it. And you've got your niche with your super pigmented liquid blushes and your highlighters that everyone loves. Now's a great time to sell it where you will make loads of money, Selena. However, This is a big however. From a consumer perspective on the brand, it can create a negative impression. I think a lot of times when we see independent brands or brands get bought by bigger organizations, whether that be bigger makeup conglomerates like Estee Lauder or LVMH, or when it gets bought up by some random other company, those companies sometimes can change when there's different leadership in them, when there's different visions getting involved, when you're not the sole person saying what is good, what isn't good, what you want to see, what you don't want to see, when a lot of these companies have their own factories that they like to produce things in, formulas can change, visions can change. I see this a lot when I think about Mac. When as soon as Mac was bought by Estee Lauder, things changed. Mac's kind of iconic, being a bit edgy, being a bit different, doing formulas that were completely new and groundbreaking. What does Mac do now that really ever stands out as something that's different? It feels very safe now, Mac. It's not, there's more rules within even the staff and how they're allowed to present because it's owned by Estee Lauder. Estee Lauder have their own factories, own places where they actually produce things. So formulas and stuff have changed over the years, and have there been as much innovation within products and the quality within products and that they used to when they were a smaller independent brand? And I think this is the kind of questions that come into my mind when I see brands like Rare Beauty potentially getting bought out by a bigger brand or just any independent brand. So I think from a business move, yes, great, probably best time to sell your brand. But from a consumer view, please don't sell your brand. Not that I use anything from Rare Beauty, nor do I really want to use anything from Rare Beauty. Those liquid blushes are not something that really appeals to me. The idea of something being super pigmented, that a tiny dot of it could go across my whole face, that to me is just like that's too much effort to try and use. I want something that I can build up that's less pigmented rather than something that's super pigmented from the get-go. It's not my kind of vibe, but I get that's very much TikTok social media generation of cosmetics where they want things to be super, super pigmented. Your blush, your bronzer, your eyeshadow bases, everything needs to be super, super pigmented. Where I'm more of a let me build it. Let me see the vibe. Let me build and blend. That's my kind of vibe. Now we've got a few more news stories left, so hold in there. But the next one is Sephora is opening another new store in Newcastle. So other than its two stores in London, so one in Westfield West, London Westfield East, and the announcement that it'll be heading to Manchester this summer, the next location will be in Eldon Square in Newcastle. Interesting. It's good to see that Sephora is growing in the UK and that there's an appetite for it this time. We all know that Sephora came to the UK many years ago and it failed. However, I don't think Sephora is all that. Like the couple of times I've been in there, it's always really busy, always really cramped. A lot of the brands they sell you can get in other places, whether that be Boots or Selfridges, which normally are tidier. There's less people around them. You can actually test the products because there's testers around, and they often have better deals, especially Boots. Boots constantly are doing like 20% off their premium cosmetic lines and things like that. Is there a need? And I prefer the point system in Boots too. So I'm like, is there really a need for Sephora? I don't know. Maybe the young people who more on social media who think of Sephora as like, oh my God, that brand that's from America, even though it's, I think, a French brand, but oh my God, that brand that all the influencers go to, I can now go to. Maybe that's why it's so popular. But from a actual someone who's just casually buying makeup, I still prefer Boots and Superdrug. Sephora wouldn't be my go-to place to be like, oh, I'm gonna go buy some makeup today. But good to see that it's growing. It's going to be extended to more places, I guess. Season 6 of Glow Up has kicked off in the UK on the week of this recording. The first episode has come out, and what a great episode it was. I'm not going to do too many spoilers, but the episode featured Lady Gaga's makeup artist, which was really, really cool. I found it interesting how the episode seemed to, and the main challenge or the first challenge seemed to really much revolve around house labs. You know, BBC normally they don't really allow product placement and product advertising on a lot of their shows. So the fact that like the first challenge was all about house labs and making sure people used house labs, and the head judge or the guest judge was very adamant, and like people got put into the red seats because they didn't use solely house labs products. Found that interesting. I don't think they really actually mentioned house labs by name, so maybe that's how they got away with it. But interesting that that was the first challenge. Some interesting judging. I'm not a pro makeup artist, so I can't really say what's good and what's bad. Some things weren't to my tastes. Some things that got really good reactions I was a little bit confused by, but everything was good. No shade to any of the makeup artists, obviously, on the show. But yeah, I'm really excited that it's back. Maybe do an update towards the end of the season about maybe who I think is going to win or who's doing well. Not going to do a week by week blow by blow, but it's just thought I would share for the makeup news segment that it is started in the UK, which means in a few months it'll be out in Netflix. All my international babies who are listening, and that's kind of where a lot of the makeup artists really start to see an impact from being on the show. That's where they get the followers and people kind of talking about the show a lot more is when it hits Netflix, which I find funny too. The BBC don't really push the show too much, sadly. But yes, exciting that it's back. And that is it for our beauty news of this month. Is there any beauty news that I missed out that you would like me to talk about next month, or any beauty news that you just think is interesting? Do let me know either in the comments or on social media, specifically on our Instagram at Turning Looks Pod. And if not, I shall see you in a couple of weeks' time for our next interview with our next guest. It shall be a good episode. I'm actually really excited for it. See you later. Bye.